Thank you again for joining us today for the State of the Workforce. Today's presentation is a collaboration between Lake County Workforce Development and Lake County Partners, the Economic Development Association of Lake County. We will start today's presentation with a quick poll. We'd just like to see who is in the audience with us today. We will launch today's poll in just a second. We'll give you a brief moment to answer the question. Again, please select which of these best describes you. We'd like to get to know who is in our audience today. We'll give everybody just a moment to answer. I see the responses all coming in. Please, if you're just joining us, we're doing a quick poll just to see who's in the audience. Thank you everybody for joining us today. We're very excited for today's presentation. Go ahead and complete the poll. We'll share the results with you. All right. It looks like we have majority of employees and job seekers, professionals in here. We have some HR personnel and C-suite executives. So welcome to everybody. We are very excited for today's agenda. It is going to be very robust. We have a lot to provide to you in an hour and a half. So we'll go ahead and get started. So here is today's agenda. We will start with opening remarks. And a warm welcome from our Lake County Workforce Development Board Chair, Kim Weimer, who is the Business Resource Manager at Laser Precision, located in Libertyville, Illinois. We will then hand it to Lake County Workforce Development's Business Services team, who will share unemployment trends, business intelligence pertaining to workforce trends, and innovative approaches to identifying and retaining talent. We are also very excited to have with us today our apprenticeship navigator, who will be sharing information pertaining to apprenticeships. I will then share some general information regarding some workforce development services, data analysis pertaining to job seekers and how we serve, and some information regarding job skills. I will then pass it to Lake County Partners to share economic development updates pertaining to employer retention and attraction efforts, capital investments, and labor force analysis. We will then have some closing thoughts, some information about Lake County Workforce Ecosystem, and wrap up today's presentation with some Q&A. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, we please ask that you put them in the Q&A section, and we will answer them at the end. All right, and with that, we do have another quick survey for you. But before we launch that, we do want to just get started with sharing some of the responses that we received from that registration question. So when you registered for today's event, you were asked, as we look ahead to the future of work, what challenges do you anticipate emerging? The responses included skills gap and training, soft skill deficit, the impact of AI and automation, remote work, and recruitment and retention. These responses were shared with today's presenters as they developed the content for today's presentation. We want to make sure we were solution focused on these current and upcoming challenges. But we also want to hear from you. So as I said, another quick survey, we do want to get your solutions. So what are you implementing in 2024 to address the challenges of you or your organization are facing? So this is a live survey, and we'll just give you a moment. We'll pull this up in just a second. Thank you. All right, please visit menti.com on your computer or phone and enter the code on top of the screen and put your responses to this question. What are solutions you will implement in 2024 to address the challenges you or your organization are facing? And that code is 6353-3521. You can visit menti.com on your phone or on your computer, put the code in, and give us some of those solutions. As those answers get populated in, we'll see them pop up. Support the capacity of career navigators, utilizing contractors for project-based work, retention strategies, additional training, recertification, training paths for employees, continued professional development, improving onboarding and retention, re-education, partnerships with educational institutions and employers. Lots of great responses, some temp labor and outsourcing, apprenticeships, increased publicity and training and career positions, more partnerships with education. Thank you everybody for all your responses. These are great. Thank you for your responses. I will now hand it over to Kim Weimer, the Lake County Workforce Development Board Chair and Human Resource Manager with Laser Precision, for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Ashanti. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining the 2024 State of the Workforce presentation. It's an honor to have you all with us today. My name is Kim Weimer, and I have the pleasure of currently holding the chair position on the Lake County Workforce Development Board. I've been a member of the board since appointed in September of 2019. I also currently have the honor of sitting on the Board of Governors for Lake County Partners. Currently, I'm a local business leader with Inside Lake County and work as the HR manager at Laser Precision, a metal manufacturer located nearby in Libertyville. As an organizational leader, I identified a number of years ago that we had a lack of skilled talent in our community. And we were finding it very difficult to fill these high demand jobs with inside of our industry. I knew I needed to work on a solution to grow and enhance the team here at Laser Precision, and that I better start immediately. For me, it all started with workforce development and the team there. From what I learned, that there was a Lake County ecosystem that includes workforce development, the College of Lake County Tech Campus, and Lake County Partners. A group of like-minded individuals who all form organizations that are looking to solve a problem that we all share, and that's not having enough workforce within inside Lake County. It all begins at the Lake County, at the Job Center in Waukegan with the workforce development team. The family coaching that they provide to every client that they come in contact with, the idea that an individual is only seeking a job is a theory of the past. The team has identified that an individual coming to workforce for assistance not only is seeking employment, but in most instances have other barriers that they need assistance for, such as childcare, food insecurities, transportation needs, and also training needs. Individuals who might find themselves impacted by a layoff can apply for funding to skill up and change career fields. Incumbent workers and returning citizens are encouraged to enter careers that are in high demand and offered experiences through on-the-job training. In large part, the work being done at the local area high schools, the College of Lake County, and the Lake County Tech Campus offer introductions to career paths with work-based learnings and experiences for formal education. Over the past few years, the Workforce Board has strategically worked to increase our youth programming throughout Lake County, introducing young adults to a number of career paths, exploring opportunities. This is something that I feel passionate about. We have to focus on the youth within inside of our county, as they are the workforce of our future. I hope that you will all echo my sentiment today and join in the charge. The Workforce Board has been able to do high-level work that is impactful because of the career specialists and our business services team who are engaged one-on-one with our clients and employers to provide a holistic approach to employment. The data provided by Lake County Partners through the CEDS report has allowed me and other business members to better understand the needs of not only manufacturing, but other industries alike within inside of our community. There are many challenges that have been brought to light, and we have a long road ahead. The increasing workforce over the next 5 to 10 years is going to be problematic. Employers need to start to grow their own talent through partnerships with the Lake County ecosystem and the addition of automated resources with inside their facilities. Formulating relationships with the members who make up the ecosystem has provided Laser Precision with additional reach to our community members and legislation representatives. The promotion of economic growth today and the work being performed will only continue to draw additional businesses, industries, and talent to our already thriving county, which is a huge win for not only employers, but all of us who reside inside Lake County and call it home. Again, I would like to take an opportunity to welcome you all today to the 2024 State of the Workforce Address and presentation, and thank you for your time today. I now have the pleasure to introduce Jeff Hubert and Antonio Garcia from the Workforce Development Business Services team.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Hubert. I'm project lead for business services. Part of the services that we can provide local businesses and local residents in Lake County is labor market information. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So let's dive right in and talk about some unemployment trends. The unemployment rate in Lake County, Illinois fluctuated throughout 2023. It was 5.7 in August, decreased to 5.2 in July, and further dropped to 4.8 in June. But by November 2023, the rate had decreased to 4.1. Now let's talk about the main causes of unemployment numbers in 2023. The high unemployment numbers can be attributed to various factors. One of those main causes was the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, which led to business closures and layoffs. Additionally, Illinois high taxes and stagnant home values may have contributed to the high unemployment rate. The 2024 Workforce Outlook emphasizes growth. The job market is continuing to grow steady. The economy is beginning to resemble its pre-pandemic self. Confidence is growing that a recession has been avoided, for now anyway. And companies are once again investing in growth. Now let's look at what can have an impact on unemployment. Lower interest rates can stimulate economic activity by making borrowing cheaper. This can lead to increased business investment, which can result in job creation and potential decrease in unemployment. However, the impact on the unemployment rate will depend on various factors, including the overall state of the economy. What is the economic outlook? The Federal Reserve expects economic growth to slow considerably in 2024. This could lead to reduced retail spending, a worsening consumer balance sheet, and a continued rise in the unemployment rate. However, the lowering of the interest rate could potentially stimulate economic activity and mitigate some of these effects. We have to talk about inflation. Lowering interest rates can also impact inflation. The Federal Reserve expects inflation to fade from its highest level in a generation. They expect the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, the Fed's favored measure of inflation, to slip from 2.8 in 2023 to 2.4 in 2024. So that's a little bit of the nationwide unemployment. Now let's dive into some local data and some workforce trends. So let me introduce Antonio Garcia.
Thank you, Jeff. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Antonio Garcia. I'm the Business Services Manager for Workforce Development. I want to thank our board chair, Kim Weimer, for their kind introductions. And Jeff, I couldn't agree more. And this is what we see if we summarize this. 260 new jobs were added into the economy. That's a total of 2.7 million jobs. The unemployment rate in November fell below the historic lows of 3.7% in the US. We also saw a 4.1 annual wage growth. But let's hone in on Lake County specifically. So in Lake County, our unemployment rate was, as of November of 2023, 4.1%, which is a very healthy number. If you see here on the graph, we do have our priority cities we have to focus on. North Chicago, Round Lake Beach, Waukegan, Zion City continue to see unemployment rate above 4.8%. And this is where we provide the services and programs to our constituents in these priority cities to assist in lowering that unemployment rate. But let's look at workforce trends. What do we need to look out for in 2024? We understand the unemployment rate now. A couple of key items that we noted here that we need to look, and they follow a little progression if you see here. But the first one really is return to the office battle. The push for employees to return to office will continue in 2024. Employers may face challenges in implementing return to the office policies, and there could be ongoing debates about the necessity and logistics of returning to the office. One of the top questions we saw in the job center while applying for jobs from our constituents was, is there remote work? Do they offer remote work? Which leads us to our second key trend, embracing flexibility. The workplace will continue to see a strong appetite for part-time schedules and flexible work arrangements. This includes hybrid flexible schedules to attract and retain talent, as other employers are offering this as well. Our three key factors that we identified is quality over quantity and hiring. Our chair actually touched on this earlier in this presentation. As the job market stabilizes, employers will likely shift their focus from simply filling positions to finding high-quality candidates. This means looking beyond the traditional qualifications and considering a candidate's potential contribution to the company. Would it be time for your company to look at returning citizens or just as impacted individuals, and how can they fit in your organization? The fourth bullet here, adoption of AI technology. Right before this webinar, we were just chatting on how AI has affected all our lives. Workday actually recently published a study and mentioned that most workers don't really feel like they understand what AI is and how they can really incorporate it or use it in the workplace. Empowering employees with this training is critical, especially in this environment. And then the last one here, increase use of data in HR and recruiting. There will be an increase in emphasis on data-driven decision-making in HR and recruiting. This could involve using data analytics to understand workforce trends, predict future needs, and develop effective recruiting strategies. So what does this mean? What programs do we have to offer in Lake County? In today's rapidly evolving business landscape, the ability to attract, develop, and retain top talent is more important than ever. The Talent Pipeline Management Program, or TPM, as you see here, is a proactive strategic approach to ensure that we have the right people in the right place at the right time. It's about anticipating and addressing the talent needs ahead of time to ensure our organization's continued growth and success. Workforce development staff has been trained to activate this program in connecting employers with job seekers here in Lake County. The TPM process calls it employer collaboratives. The collaboratives initiatives is an industry sector focus, focusing on apprenticeships, employer opportunities for justice impacted individuals, and internship creation for high school students. We can't agree more. Our youth is our next talent pipeline. So whether you're a job seeker or you're an employer today listening into this presentation, your participation would be invaluable. And I encourage you to consider joining one in this endeavor, whether you're an employer in an employer collaborative or you're a job seeker and want to be part of this program. If you're interested, please reach out to us. We'll certainly work with you. If you're listening to this presentation and you're outside of Lake County, please reach out to your local workforce development business service representative to learn more about this program. But these are not the only programs. We're really excited about the apprenticeship model. So for that, I'm going to turn it over to our apprenticeship navigator, Rasan Grant. Rasan?
Thank you, Antonio. My name is Rasan Grant, and I am the apprenticeship navigator for Lake County. In my role, I work with our workforce ecosystem in Lake County to bring awareness and provide technical assistance to create and expand apprenticeships. So traditionally, apprenticeships have been primarily in the skilled trades area. Typically, we've seen them in construction and manufacturing. Apprenticeships are a work and learn model, but apprenticeships have evolved beyond the trades, and there is a surge of interest among employers to learn more about apprenticeships and create alternative pathways beyond skilled trades to include finance, professional business services, information technology, and more. As of November 2023, data reported from Apprenticeship USA indicates that there are 466 active apprentices here in Lake County. Many of those, the vast majority, are enrolled in construction programs. Apprenticeships are a workforce solution that offers employers an ability to tap into a large talent pool of U.S. workers that are underemployed, need training, or looking for career advancement. Apprenticeships are a viable workforce solution to build a talent pipeline of skilled workers, fill critical jobs that are emerging in industries such as clean energy, manufacturing, and healthcare. Registered apprenticeships is an industry proven model and strategy to recruit, train, and retain talent. It is industry driven and employer led. Registered apprenticeship programs are DOL vetted, programs that involve structured on-the-job learning, work, earn, and learn elements that develop a highly skilled workforce. Employers are involved in the process. Employers actually benefit from the registered apprenticeship programs by developing their own talent and building that talent pipeline similar to what Antonio Garcia just stated. Training the workforce and embedding their company culture, best practices into employees overall, improving productivity and increasing the retention rates. Employers can also take advantage of tax credits. Apprentices benefit equally from participating in registered apprenticeship programs. They participate in structured work, earn, and learn programs while receiving progressive wage increases. Upon completing the program, apprentices receive a nationally industry recognized credential. Registered apprenticeships can be really a win-win for both employers and apprentices. These are just a few employers that offer registered apprenticeships. Feel free to view their organizational website to learn more about upcoming apprenticeship opportunities in 2024. Many of these positions are work, earn, and learn opportunities in professional businesses and services, construction, industrial manufacturing, CNC, and more. Now I'll turn it over to Ashanti.
Thank you, Rasan. My name is Ashanti Ross. I'm a project lead planner here with Lake County Workforce Development, and I am very excited to provide a general overview of our grant-funded training program, data from our workforce grants, and the importance of job skills with you today. Our workforce training grants assist individuals who are eligible for training with short-term occupational funding for our workforce grants who are critical for individuals who are looking for in-demand skills to be competitive in today's market. We are able to offer our services through the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, WIOA, a federal program established to skill up the next workforce, address job skill, employment, and training needs, and address the workforce needs of our business community. Workforce training grants are utilized to support individuals entering the workforce, including young adults, as we talked about today, or those transitioning careers or industries, and individuals facing barriers to employment. The grants provide training and support services to facilitate their entry into sustainable employment. Individuals working with us not only receive tuition assistance, but also have access to labor market information, in-demand occupational training resources, and direct hire opportunities with our business community. These services are not offered alone by Workforce Development as we leverage local partnerships with the business sector, the Chamber of Commerce, the College of Lake County, community-based organizations, local and regional stakeholders to address the training and business needs of Lake County. Data is critical to ensure we're delivering high-quality services for all our stakeholders. Data also helps us to ensure that we have equitable access to quality jobs and services. However, it's essential to remember that data alone does not convey the importance of our services to employers and job seekers. That is why we also leverage our storytelling in our success stories through the use of video, newsletters, and social media. Data is constantly being analyzed by our workforce board, committees, leadership, and staff to ensure we are not only meeting, but exceeding our identified benchmarks and matrix, but also ensuring our services are having the necessary impact on our business community and job seekers. The data allows us to demonstrate the value of our services and how, when you collaborate with workforce development and our partners, we are able to tap into talent pipelines to assist as a workforce solution for your organization. We wanted to share with you some of our training analysis, as it gives you an overview of where the demand is with job seekers and the industry training they are seeking. Within this defined slide, you will see how the top 5 training industries selected by our job seekers align with the in-demand industries of Lake County. To the right of the slide, you will see the percentiles that illustrate the training enrollment percentages, the supply of the talent that has been trained within each of the industries, with transportation, healthcare, and professional services with the highest percentage of individuals enrolled in training in those industries. Our workforce training grants assist individuals throughout all of Lake County. This chart helps illustrate the job seeker utilization percentages by city. The top cities include Waukegan, Zion, and North Chicago, where there is an abundant supply of workers who are looking to be trained. For in-demand career fields, historically, the top 3 cities that are users of workforce systems in these high unemployment rate cities with underemployed population groups. One of the workforce board's key imperatives is creating a culture of equitable prosperity with the objective of increasing access to services for those that are underserved. The data supports our priority of service for underrepresented communities while providing workforce services to all Lake County residents. This chart demonstrates the average wage by industry for training enrollments. The industries with the highest wages include IT, professional services, and healthcare. The goal of our services is to provide sustainable wages for job seekers while also conducting wage analysis with our employers to ensure competitive wages. As individuals complete their training, individuals are provided employment and job search services. Individuals are invited to attend our various job search workshops focused on networking, building a professional brand, resume development, and interview skills. Individuals are also referred to our business services team, where they can work with direct employment opportunities. The business services team has a portfolio of employers throughout Lake County that have access to our workforce supply. Here are some key important employment data points, which include employment status breakdown. 67% of those that complete training secure employment, and job titles include CDL driver, LPN, HR specialist, project manager, and HVAC technician. A recruitment of the training individuals enrolled is that they must lead to an industry recognized credential. This ensures that individuals are marketable and competitive as they search for employment. Of those that complete training, 76% earn a credential. In the last program year, we had over 550 credentials obtained. The most common credentials obtained include CDL, Medical Assistant, Agile Scrum, CNC, Lean Six Sigma. As I mentioned earlier, the top industries we have individuals enrolled in include transportation. So we wanted to provide you with a macro view of this industry with some additional data points. Over 31% of WIOA trainees are enrolled within the transportation industry. The average wage of those securing employment in this industry is about $27 an hour, and the average age of those in this industry is about 33 years old. Lake County Workforce Development continues to see a workforce demand as it pertains to the transportation and logistic industry. Here is a macro view of the healthcare industry. Over 26% of WIOA trainees are enrolled within the healthcare industry. The average age of those securing employment is, the average wage of those securing employment is about $28 an hour, and the average age is about 34 years old. We share the micro view of these industries to illustrate the potential in the talent pool and to provide an illustration of the range of those that we serve. Many times there's a misconception that our services are for those in specific industries like manufacturing or transportation. Still, the reality is that workforce development services assist a spectrum of individuals in key in-demand industries and careers. Data is critical for the work that we do to ensure our services are equitable and accessible, to ensure individuals are completing their training and are competitive and securing employment with sustainable wages, and also to ensure that we're meeting the demands of employers. Here are additional key highlights of our analysis. The average wage of those in our training programs is $26.72. We serve 88 distinct zip codes. In the last program year, we served 789 individuals. The top 3 industries individuals trained in include transportation, healthcare, professional services, IT, and manufacturing. How do our workforce training grants benefit the labor force? Well, where do I start? The training individuals receive assists with addressing skills gaps that they may have, and maybe because they're new to the workforce or transitioning careers or industries or re-entering the workforce. Our workforce grants are human-centered and provide holistic approach to assisting individuals. We also offer support services to ensure their success or leverage partnerships to offer referrals to local organizations. These support services assist with barriers that individuals may have to training and employment. So let's talk a little bit about job skills. Individuals enrolled in our programs are also provided with LinkedIn Learning licenses. The courses are offered flexible and accessible learning for individuals in addition to their occupational training they might be receiving. The licenses are used to expand and reference knowledge that they are learning in the classroom, but also used to develop soft skills and job search knowledge. We shared with job seekers that training is often the requirement to get their foot in the door, but these soft skills is often how employment can be maintained. Skills are not just the key to keeping up with upcoming trends, but also help future-proof your career. Training and education is not a one and done. To ensure you can keep up with the fast, ever-changing workforce environment, lifelong learning will have to be the new norm. No matter what position, industry, or level you are in, you will need to find opportunities to keep up with trends and new skills in your industry. Upskilling and reskilling are everyone's responsibility. It will require employers to provide opportunities for employees to gain the needed skills to do their jobs successfully, but also the responsibility of the individual to seek opportunities to upskill to continue in their career plan or to reskill if they're seeking transition to new industries or careers. All right, speaking of how fast everything is changing, we have another quick survey regarding AI. We will take a moment to launch this. And as we share the survey, I do have a few quotes from you from the McKinsey & Company article regarding generative AI and the future of work in America. By 2030, activities that account for 30% of hours currently worked across the US economy could be automated. Although generative AI is still in the early stages, the potential applications for business are significant and wide-ranging. The timeline for automation adaptation could be sharply accelerated, and with generative AI, the researchers estimate that automation could take over tasks accounting for 21.5% of hours worked in the US economy. And by 2030, with it, the share has now jumped to 29.5%. Technological advances often cause disruption, but historically, they eventually fuel economic and employment growth. The overall labor market will have higher demand for social, emotional, and digital skills. All right, I see those responses coming in. How are you using AI in the workplace? Let's read some of your answers. All right, helps with composing emails, drafting website changes, press releases, to review and audit communication, graphic development, to enhance copy and messaging, video presentations. A couple not using it quite yet. We're not. Emails, not for sending and use, but learning, graphic development. Lots of great responses. I see they're still coming in. Thank you for completing today's quick survey. Thank you. Yes, thank you for sharing how you're using AI in the workplace. I know we're all kind of still learning, but thank you for sharing that with us. All right, thank you for all your responses. And with that, I will hand it over to Bethany, who is going to be sharing with us a little bit more about trends. Give me a second to reshare my presentation.
Thanks, Ashanti.
There you are.
Thank you. My name is Bethany Williams, and I am the Strategy and Intelligence Director for Lake County Partners, which is Lake County's economic development agency. So I just want to thank the Workforce Board and the Workforce Department for having us here. It's always good to be with our partners. So with that, I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of sort of what is going on from an economic development perspective in the county. And when you think of economic development, most people are thinking about job creation, business attraction, and retention. So that's where I wanted to start. But I also want to sort of eventually zoom out and give a little bit more of a macro impact in terms of things that are going on that are impacting our workforce availability and readiness. So on the next slide, let's see a little snapshot of some of the investments. That's what we call it. Some of the companies expanding or moving into Lake County, choosing Lake County. And you'll see some of their logos. We're very proud of this list every year. And so there's some interesting trends. There's definitely, despite some of the macroeconomic headwinds that have been challenging business decisions of the last handful of months, we are still seeing new deals come forward, new projects come forward. In particular, you'll notice there's a lot that's happening in the manufacturing space. Within that, we're seeing projects clustered around life sciences, sustainability and energy, renewable energy, manufacturing in the EV industry, and suppliers to that industry seems to be a sort of a trend that's coming forward. We're also seeing that food processing and packaging remains a big interest in Lake County. And so we're seeing a lot of leaders in that category in terms of our investment activity and potential deals that are coming across our desk. And while we are still seeing new projects coming in, one of the trends that we're noticing, and there was conversation earlier in the presentation about interest rates, I think that's a big part of it. What we're seeing now is that deals aren't happening as fast as they were a year or 2 years ago. People, the time it takes to put together financing, to make decisions, and to actually sign on the dotted line and do a deal is taking companies longer than it did a few years ago. And that has impacts over just how much we're seeing movement in the economy. Next slide. Just a quick look back at the last 5 years, though, even though things are slowing down in terms of the time it's taking to get deals, 2023 was actually our biggest year on record since we started tracking. We look at these three metrics as sort of a quick look at how we're doing. And these metrics really reflect projects, investments, new companies coming, companies expanding into Lake County, companies staying here and growing here. These numbers reflect jobs, projects that Lake County Partners has actively been engaged in. There's a lot more that happens than this that sort of naturally occurs. But you'll see in 2023, we had 786 new jobs. Our retained jobs was at 512 and $610 million in direct capital investment that happened in just 2023 alone. So a big year. And we're very proud that this means that our 5-year total for direct investment just inched, thanks to a last minute deal that went down in December, right over the $1 billion mark over the last 5 years, which is great. Zooming out from that, though, I did want to just tie this back to the subject at hand, which is the state of the workforce. So we're going to take a quick walk through some labor force, employment and unemployment rate numbers, just to sort of give some context. So a quick snapshot of the Lake County labor force. And as Antonio and everyone and Jeffrey mentioned above, these numbers bounce around month to month. we tend to look at them over time and just look for patterns. And when you look at labor force, the labor force is defined as everybody that's sort of working age in Lake County who is either working or actively seeking work. So if you take time off to be a stay-at-home parent, you take yourself out of the workforce because you decide to retire early at 50, you're not counted in this number. But the labor force in Lake County, if you look at that dark blue line back in 2019, was large. And what you saw, obviously the lighter blue line, that royal blue line is 2020, which I think anyone who's interested in labor or workforce numbers will tell you to just throw that line out. It was crazy times. And the numbers were all over the place. But what you're seeing since then in the green, the yellow, and the red of 2023 is that we're settling into what looks like kind of a new pattern for us. And what's a little bit concerning is that we have not seen that labor market or that labor force number climb back up to where it was pre-pandemic. The number of working age folks who are actively saying, you know, I want to be in the workforce, I want to work, or I'm seeking work, has been depressed, and we have not climbed back to where we were pre-pandemic. And we track what's happening in Lake County, but we also track what's happening across the region. And what's concerning to us is that we are a little bit of an outlier. Our colleagues around the Metro Chicago region have hit their pre-pandemic labor force numbers and have not climbed back to that number. And we think there are a couple of reasons why, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But it's just something that we want to continue to think about as we look at how do you grow or expand your business here. Talent is such a critical piece of that. And we need to make sure we're not leaving anyone standing on the sidelines of the workforce. So jumping to the next slide, you'll see employment trends. Again, that dark blue line in 2019, one back. There we go, the employment trends. So these are people who live in Lake County who are working. And in 2019, again, that dark blue line, nice and high, like where we right where we like it. In 2020, craziness. But then what you're seeing in 2021, 2022, and 2023 starts to seem like a new normal. These years are looking kind of similar to each other and settling into a pattern that, again, is lower than what we've seen pre-pandemic. And this is concerning. You jump to the next slide, which looks at unemployment rates over the same period of time. Again, throw out that light blue 2020 line. But what you're seeing is that 2019 number, and even in 2021 and 2020, and now in 2023, we're hovering down close to 4% in 2022, much like we did in 2019. And that all seems great. So if we only look at unemployment rates, you would think, so just from looking at unemployment rates, that 2022 was actually not that different from 2019. But as we just looked at labor force and employment numbers, we know that not to be true. So jumping ahead to the next slide, the unemployment rate is literally just dividing the number of people who are employed by the total number of people in the labor force. So if you shrink that labor force number, you're shrinking the denominator in that equation, and you're driving your unemployment rate down. And so you look around at the November 2023 numbers of 4.1% unemployment, that's pretty close to perfect. Most economists would be pretty pleased with that number. But the reality is that only looking at unemployment rates are sort of masking these two other issues of a depressed labor force, a shrinking labor force, and the shrinking number of folks who are working. So just to play the devil's advocate, if we instead divided that employed number from November 2023, that 352,000 people who were employed, Lake County residents who were employed in November 2023, by the pre-pandemic labor force number, which was much, 10,000 people higher than we had in November 2023, we'd actually be looking at an unemployment rate of like 6.7%. So when you account for the shrinking of our labor force, it starts to make us a little bit more concerned. And it concerns us about our capacity for growth as we look to the future. And one of the things that I wanted to take a moment to talk about was some of those other things that are driving that labor force shrinkage. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but the changing demographics of Lake County are concerning and pose, I think, a challenge for employers looking ahead to hiring needs. So our by 2027, the working age population, think of folks age 18 to 64 in Lake County, is projected to shrink by nearly 15,000 people. So this is declining across every single subregion in the county, so that we've divided the county sort of north and south, and then did west, central, and east. So in every single corner of the county, we're going to see that labor force, that active labor pool shrinking really in the next couple of years, which is going to put continued pressure and add to those hiring challenges that we talked about at the beginning of the program. And when we stop to think about why, there are obviously a couple of things that we looked at. Demographic pressures are one of them. We've had low to flat, depending on whose numbers you buy, population growth. So we're sort of not adding people to our overall population. If we are, it's pretty negligible. And also we're aging as a population. That's not making us totally different though than other parts of the Chicago metro region. We've had pretty flat to stable population across the region, and we're all aging. We do hear anecdotally that there are people who are just leaving the workforce, that costs of things like childcare or other scheduling issues, particularly during the pandemic. You would hear a lot about this. If there was a household that had kids, for example, that was trying to make it work to work and take care of kids, and it was possible to go to a one-income situation, they were doing that. And then the other challenge that we're hearing about is housing and the affordability of housing, which is something I wanted to get into next. So in our 2021-2022 Lake County Partners went about the exercise of a new strategic plan. It's called an comprehensive economic development strategy, and it's really a federal document and process that looks at all of the issues that are driving or slowing economic opportunity in the county. And one of the things that came out for the first time in that process in Lake County was housing, or housing affordability. So getting notes that you guys are having trouble hearing me. Pause for just a moment. Is this any better on the headphones? Maybe I'll give this a try. Can you guys still hear me? Okay.
Sounds a little better on my end. If you guys want to say in the Q&A if it sounds better on your end.
Okay.
Oh, we're getting some yes and thumbs up. So
sorry
yes.
about that,
yes, better, Bethany.
Clearly,
Thank you.
Some workforce training and technology skills. But so for the first time, as part of our economic development strategy, housing was identified as a key sort of rate limiter to growth and economic opportunity. So recently, Lake County Partners, along with Lake County Community Development and Illinois Realtors Association, conducted a housing assessment. And I just want to share with you some of the highlights of that report, which you can find on the Lake County Partners website if you want to read the whole thing. But basically, we've got a challenge in terms of our housing supply. Our housing building permits have been low since 2018. And we're only averaging about 1,200 new units permitted countywide for each year since 2018. So the greatest construction, as you can see on the chart, is in the south central part of the county. But what's happening around us is sort of the opposite. Both in McHenry County and Kenosha County, they're having sort of permitting boom. In the last couple of years, Kenosha County's building permits actually exceeded Lake County's, which is interesting when you think about the fact that Kenosha County's population is about less than a quarter of Lake County. So they're outbuilding us, and actually their multifamily permits, that means, higher density housing, is what's driving those permitting booms in Kenosha County, which is interesting because that's not a housing type we've got what happens then when you have a market where you're not adding new supply and the demand is remaining strong, you're seeing price appreciation. And that's what's happening in the Lake County housing market. And any of you who bought or sold homes recently can testify that our low supply is driving price appreciation, and that the price appreciation is outpacing income growth. So the single family median home prices in Lake County, you can see the range, and it varies across the county, but in 2022, the median single family home price in Lake County was at about $377,000. So, and what you're seeing on the chart on the right is that as those prices increased about 37% over that 4-year period, median incomes for households, family of 4, only rose about 17%. So when your housing costs are appreciating so markedly above what your incomes are growing, you wind up with a really difficult and unsustainable situation. On the next slide, we'll kind of look at what that looks like in terms of overall affordability. Because basically what you come out with is that 44,000 homeowners or homeowning households and 29,000 renting households in Lake County are living in housing that they cannot afford. So not only does this sort of put a barrier up to people who might want to move into Lake County or might want to become home buyers in Lake County, but we also have this whole chunk of our homeowners and renters who are living in housing that they cannot afford. And that affordability threshold is set by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, by HUD, saying that you shouldn't be spending more than about 30% of your income on your housing costs. And you can sort of see it's not just happening in one corner of the county, it's happening in every single part of the county where we have a giant chunk of owners and even a larger share of renters who are living in homes that they just can't afford. In fact, the largest share of folks who are living in unaffordable housing is actually in the southeast corner, which is our most affluent corner of the county, but it's also where our housing costs are the highest. And we looked at sort of what those rents are in particular across the different subregions, and these are 2-bedroom rents in Class A apartments, so nicer buildings that might have amenities, and most corners of the county, those rents are unaffordable to folks. So particularly workers who are working in entry-level, lower wage jobs. On the next slide, we kind of looked at gross rents. On the left, across each of the sort of the countywide is about $1,286, but across each of the corners of the county, it varies slightly. But then we compared that with wages across a handful of occupations in different industry clusters, and looked at what is 30% of their sort of monthly take home can they afford, what can they afford to spend on housing to get to sort of what's their affordable monthly housing payment all the way on the far right. So if you look at folks like pharmacy technicians who their, what they can afford to pay on their housing costs every month is about $950. There isn't a part of the county where they could afford median rent. And the same is true for, it gets worse when you look at food preparation or when you look at preschool teachers. So there's a whole emergency medical technicians, there's a whole sort of crowd of workers who are having to really live in unaffordable conditions or make the decision to live far away and try to commute in, which presents challenges not only for their employers and those individuals and their families, but also on their transportation network and overall sustainability. And the cost of that too. So what the final headline sort of from the story is from the housing study is that overall, if we sort of continue on our current pace of building, we'll wind up in a situation where by 2027, we're short about 19,000 housing units, about 11,400 market rate housing units. In particular, there's a lot of folks who are talking about the missing middle. You'll hear about that both in terms of price point, so affordable sort of like starter homes, not your luxury townhouse, but something a little bit more attainable. But also missing middle housing refers to the housing type. So not single family homes on quarter acre lots, 4-bedroom, 3,000 square foot homes, but something smaller that's nice that that people can move into, not adding only at the biggest, highest end price points for floor plans. And then we're also missing affordable housing units. The senior affordable housing market, we're short about 1,200 units by 2027. And in particular, we have a big squeeze in affordable units, housing units for families that serve families. So on top of those costs of housing, there's also from the economic strategy conversations that we had across the county, there also became a big awareness that we have shortages in terms of childcare and what those costs are causing families. Sort of big eye-opening thing to me was that this chart shows that current licensed childcare capacity in Lake County can only serve approximately a quarter of children 5 and under. This is licensed childcare capacity. Not every child goes to a licensed childcare provider. Some kids are watched by their grandma, or the family around the street watches your kids while you work and you do the same for them. But in terms of licensed childcare, we can only cover about a quarter of kids 5 and under. And we can only cover about 37% of the kids age 0 to 5 who are in working families. So those are families, 2-parent households where both parents work, or a single parent household where that parent is working. We can only even physically put 37% of the kids in those families into childcare, which, again, we just had this whole conversation about supply and demand. When we only have this capacity to cover 30% of the kids, you can imagine what that's doing to prices. Again, talking about prices, we already have a lot of families who are cost burdened by their childcare. So U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says that childcare costs should not exceed 7% of your budget, but a lot of families are paying a lot more than that. Childcare is a lot more expensive for infants and toddlers than it is for preschoolers or older children, but the percentage of median household income, this is to cover the cost of one child. You're paying 16% of the median income just to put one infant in childcare. So for families who have more than one child who are, and these are, again, families making the median income, there are a lot of families who make less than that amount of income, which makes childcare cost prohibitive and makes work a lot less economic. So there was a survey that was conducted as part of a childcare landscape assessment, early childhood landscape assessment that was published earlier in 2023. And we asked families, have you ever reduced your work hours due to childcare challenges? 56% said yes. I count myself among those. And have you ever quit a job due to childcare challenges? And a third of workers said that yes, they had quit employment because they couldn't find childcare. They couldn't afford or find childcare. So this is clearly something that's having impacts. And I saw a question in the Q&A earlier about skewing, the workforce younger. And we definitely have an issue with an aging workforce in Lake County. So finding ways to make work more accessible for people who, young families and parents of young children, is a critical piece of the economic puzzle. So another couple key findings. There's only 5 of the 36 elementary school districts in Lake County have full-day preschool programs. So most people, if they're offered preschool, it doesn't support them being able to work and send their kid to preschool at the same time. So a lot of families are choosing not to engage in the preschool services that we have available. Again, these services are designed to make sure that kids are ready for kindergarten when they get there. So if we're not engaging in preschool because it doesn't mesh well with the workday, that means our kids aren't ready for kindergarten, which means they're behind, and we're having to start further and further behind and getting those kids on track. And it puts pressure on the school system once those kids eventually do show up. None of the school districts that reported in as part of the study offer before or after school care for preschoolers, even if they do offer it for elementary schools. So again, some of the initiatives that you're hearing talked about at the state and federal level about preschool for all expansion programs, they're not designed yet to really accommodate the workforce and working families. And Again, and those of you who are trying to hire people to do shift work, to work weekends or evenings, sort of non-banker hours, are, will sure can confirm this. The survey data indicates that 30% of families reported that childcare for early morning, late evening, and weekend hours was really difficult to find. It's almost non-existent, which puts really kinds of pressures on employers in the healthcare space, employers in the manufacturing space, and others that might have operations that extend between outside of business hours. So those are just sort of a walk through some of the things that we're seeing driving some of the workforce considerations that we're seeing impacting economic development. Obviously, our talent and our workforce are some of the most important advantages that we have in Lake County, and we need to maintain and protect our workforce in order to maintain our economic competitiveness. So we need to make sure that Lake County is an attractive place to work and live. But that work part is really important. Adding housing across a variety of types and price points is going to be a critical component of that. And also addressing childcare challenges that will allow people to work, and also that invest in that workforce of tomorrow by making sure that they're ready for school when they're old enough for it. These are all going to be critical pieces to maintaining that talent advantage that we have in Lake County. With that, I'm happy to hand it back over to Ashanti.
Well, thank you, Bethany. A lot of very valuable information. You've heard a lot today regarding challenges, solutions to the future of work, as well about the services of both Lake County Workforce Development and Lake County Partners. We are both part of the Lake County workforce ecosystem, which partners with key organizations such as the College of Lake County Tech Campus, the Regional Office of Education, University Center, and multiple city municipalities and non-for-profit organizations throughout the county to engage with businesses and industries to be a tool for them as they continue to address these solutions and challenges. Through our combined programs and services, we offer solutions to their needs. If you're not already connected with the Lake County workforce ecosystem, this is a great time to start this conversation and continue on these critical topics. We are sharing with you contact information for the Lake County Workforce Development Department so that you can reach out to our business services team, and also information for Lake County Partners to continue these very critical conversations and topics that we cover during today's presentation. Connect with the Job Center of Lake County social media platforms to stay up to date regarding additional resources and future events. I want to take the moment to say thank you to all our presenters. If you haven't already, join me in thanking them. Send them an emoji with a happy face. Please, I'm going to end the recording now.